the Fan3Cast, dishing out the hottest NASCAR news and views while celebrating the Three's historic comeback. Here are your hosts, Michael Metzger and Jason Schultz.
The Fan3Cast is a day early, thanks to the selfish people at the Camping World Truck Series who are running a race on Wednesday, how dare they, at the dirt track at Eldora. So we're getting this in here before you buckle down and watch that entire day of racing. So Jason, we had an off week from the Sprint Cup Series, so everyone got to take a breather. The unfortunate thing is that's the last one we have until the conclusion of the season. So who is one team, one driver, or anyone that really needed that week off and might rebound from it?
I think throughout the season, Casey Kane and the number 5 team have shown that they really need to just take a break, rebound, and try to go after that one win that's going to get them in the chase, because they've just been struggling all year. I think most of it's because they lost Keith Rodden, who is now Jamie McMurray's crew chief. He used to be Kane's engineer. He's probably a very good engineer. So they lost him. They lost a really big part of their team. So they've been trying to work without him. It's been a little difficult, but they're just, I think, on the brink of getting their win and really rebounding from what they lost after the 2013 season. And going into Indy, Kane definitely has a great shot at victory. He's raced very well here before, and I think this off week's really going to benefit him most. Going, like we have about 5 or 6 races until the chase, and then the chase comes in. If he relaxes enough, I know he was racing in Chicagoland, but if his team relaxed enough, I think he's definitely going to take advantage of this off week and come out really strong for the next 16 or so races.
When I took a look at this question, immediately jumped to me was Roush Fenway Racing, but then I realized they need more than an off week. They need the off season to come now so they could figure out what they're doing going forward and how they can hurry up and improve. So I'm going to make my pick Casey Kane's teammate Jimmy Johnson. Now, they're not hitting the panic button just yet because they have the wins to get into the chase, but back-to-back 42nd place finishes really have to make you wonder what's going on with that team. And I think taking this week to just kind of like what you said with Casey Kane, hit that pause button, get back on the right page, and then start Indianapolis on the right footing or right tire, making it a racing term, is going to be what they want to do. And I think this gives them that opportunity to kind of refocus and put that emphasis back on getting the wins and getting that momentum back.
And if that team's regrouping, they're going to be dangerous over the course of the rest of the season, because any chance they get to just relax and reset, they're going to come out really strong. And his success at Indy, I think, is because he always gets to do one off week to regroup. His whole team's going to come out strong. And last year, August wasn't their best month, but they still performed well in the chase. And I think the relaxing they did this weekend may have helped that out a little.
So you're thinking that Jimmy Johnson can definitely get it dialed in for the final stretch of the season then, right?
Yeah, I think he'll be a little more than dialed in. I think he's just going to come out and be plain dominant, and that's one thing I'm expecting for the rest of the regular season with the new chase format. Anything I really new to NASCAR, each season Johnson always does really well with it. And when a whole new chase format comes out like this year, I think the number 48 team's just going to excel, and they're going to really just be the ones to beat, because they adapt to changes so well, and they always can really learn the new things a little quicker than everyone else and really just take advantage of that. And I fully anticipate him to be one of the top championship contenders in the rest of the season.
What will be interesting to see as well is teams like Jimmy Johnson. I'm looking at Kevin Harvick. Anyone who's kind of locked in or very close to being locked in, will they use the next 5 or so races, don't quote me on that, until the chase cutoff to kind of do testing and research and development for the chase itself, as you mentioned with the new format of eliminations every 3 races? You definitely got to be on your game at the end of the year. So I'm wondering how many people are going to try to just try different things, see what can and cannot work for them, then use that to their advantage. Then I do have to say, it is really brutal that we have no breaks to the end of the year. So we're going to be going almost 3.5 months straight with racing every single weekend, which is great for the fans, but man, I do not envy those teams, drivers, and everyone else associated that's got to basically live out of a suitcase for the next 4 months.
It'll definitely be difficult, but with the whole excitement that's going to come from the new chase format, I think everyone's just going to be really anxious to get back to the track every week because you don't know what's going to play out. It's going to be completely new and definitely something we're going to watch for and most likely discuss over once the chase comes in for those 10 races.
Now, Jason, a little off top, well, kind of on topic here, but what did you make of Brian France's comments about the schedule, that it's pretty much going to be the same old, same old?
Yeah, I was definitely not happy that he just said, I'll make a slight adjustment here and there. I just really think they need to take this opportunity with the new TV partners to really shake up the schedule. And I thought NBC was going to come to them and say, we want something different, something new. And since NBC is going to start off around Kentucky weekend, I would think that they would try to get a different race to start off their part of the schedule, because Kentucky's not as big of a drawing factor as maybe a Daytona or another big races. So I'm surprised that NBC probably didn't sit down, come in and say we want more changes, want this change, because we want just something different. I don't want to really be going back to the same old that NASCAR's had for the last, I think probably 10 or so years now. So I'm definitely disappointed that we won't see that many changes.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. It's either going to be Kentucky moving out of the position where it is right now, or even maybe the bye week happening at that point, so you get a week in between Fox and NBC. But I was very hopeful that they would make those massive changes to the schedule, although I should have been a little bit more realistic that they wouldn't in the end. And even I sat down today to try to figure out a post about my ideal schedule, and honestly, I couldn't come up with a good one, just because I know what tracks I'd want to add, I know what tracks I'd take races from. The date-wise, I don't know what would work better for what area in the country, and I can see the dilemma they might have trying to shake up too much at once, but at the same time, everyone is calling for some sort of change, whether it's just moving races around or even as simple as cutting races loose just to shake things up, I guess, and who knows if they'll have another opportunity like this.
One thing that doesn't change, this is completely shifting gears, but the way we watch races every week, that rarely changes. You have your phone, you have your laptop, you have your TV, you're always following the event somehow in some different ways. So we thought it'd be fun while we don't have a race to recap from the weekend. We'll talk about how we watch the races, and I know mine is very simple. I have the TV on, and I have my phone on Twitter, as well as I take notes for my recaps in a notebook. So Mike said I was old school before when we talked about this, but I'm pretty simple in how I watch the race, and I think it'd be more interesting to follow it with a bunch of different things, but for right now I'm pretty happy just sticking to Twitter and the TV to watch the races every weekend.
I think I got to take a page out of your book, and, well, with your notebook, literally, I could take it from you, Jason, but I got too much going on. I should probably just take a step back and make it a little bit more simplistic. When I hunkered down for the race, I got it on the TV. I got my laptop up where I got the running order on NASCAR.com. On one side, I got Twitter and Facebook working on the other side of the screen. I got my phone to see if there's anything else I might be missing. And I got Race View playing so I can kind of hear, granted if they have it going on, since they don't do the trucks or many nationwide races, but listen to the in-car audio to see if I can't pick up anything that might be going on if I was at the track. But it's just a lot going on, and I know I missed some stuff on TV just because of trying to pay attention to everything. So that's where I say maybe dial it down a little bit.
Yeah, you definitely have a lot more going on than I would ever imagine trying to use. And I've always been interested by race view, but I definitely think it's a little too, not confusing, but a little too much for me. I just like trying to follow a race as simple as possible and really just pick out what's going on, what's important, and seeing how that's going to play out by the conclusion of the race.
It's tough following with Twitter as well because, as you probably know this, Jason, and many of our listeners out there, it tends to get ahead of the action. I also know I run into that with RaceView. If you're listening to the spotters, they'll say green flag and they're still turning around turn 4 on TV. So it can get a little confusing that way, that you're kind of hearing events before they're unfolding in front of your eyes.
Something that rarely happens in NASCAR. We are going to be racing on Wednesday night at the Eldora Speedway in Rossburg, Ohio. We'll be following the races through those many ways we just told you about, but it's going to be a fun event, and the first one was really great, and I expect the second one to be even better. However, there are some things that we saw in the inaugural event that we aren't seeing this time around, like the tickets are not sold out yet. Last year, I think there was 3 months at least ahead of time they were sold out, so it makes you wonder if fans maybe didn't enjoy the event as much at the track last year, or the interest level of just like the first race, yeah, it's all awesome, but maybe that's like a one-time, you go see it once, you might not be always attracted to go see it again. Also, there's only 33 trucks entered. It's not even a full truck field if they're doing a regular race. 3 trucks will not make the main event this year, but I think that this race should have attracted a lot more drivers and teams because it's special, and it definitely provides opportunity for something for these smaller teams to really get a shot at victory, because it's dirt racing, and not all drivers that are usually good on the asphalt tracks are always going to be as good on the dirt tracks.
This race has a couple things going for it and a couple things going against it. I agree with you. I think it was more, a lot of people saw the novelty of the very first edition of it. Trucks on dirt, NASCAR sanctioned event on the dirt, first time in so many years that they just wanted to get there no matter what. Been there, done that. Will they go back again? I don't know. I think this is another track that's getting hit with the same thing that's happening all over, with just attendance woes due to cost of travel and all that. They're hitting a bad time when you can barely get enough trucks to field in the race to begin with, much less doing whatever you got to do to make the trucks into dirt race ability. So I think that hurt the truck count as well. But like you, I'm surprised people like Ryan Newman aren't out there. I had a list. I don't have it in front of me naturally, but there was a bunch of people that I thought would come out. Clint Boyer, I thought he would have found a way to get a ride, but for some reason these guys either aren't getting the rides or there's no opportunities for them. So if you had some more people like that in the field, maybe it would have been a quicker sell, but for some reason we have what we have out there, and it's kind of like another truck race. And I kind of equate it to what we saw at Rockingham, and I'm not trying to curse Eldora in any way, but first couple of races there, everyone was gung-ho, why did we ever leave, all that great stuff, and then now it's closed down again.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting, and we'll see if over the years the event really keeps up. If maybe if we're not sold out now, they won't sell out before tomorrow night, but if there's maybe turning short, I think set around 1,000 unsold reserve seats. So what if next year it's like 2,000 and the numbers keep growing? It's going to be really hard for the event to stay up if fans can't support it, and you always see everyone is all excited about the event because it's fun. Well, if fans are unable to support it, you don't know how much longer it'll stay up and stay running. Like Rockingham, not enough support, so that went down. And we really hope the same thing will happen at Eldora, but you never know. And one thing that makes the World Make the Race tomorrow night at Wednesday night at Eldora really special are the heat races, heat qualifying races, which will determine the starting lineup for the main event. And that brings up the question, could NASCAR do more heat races? Because this is the only event that's part of the schedule the heat races are involved in. And I think heat races is definitely a little more interesting than even the new qualifying system. And you could sort of say heat races take place at Daytona for the 500. The qualifying duels, and they're fun to watch. And I would enjoy if NASCAR maybe tried to do some more heat races and maybe added those in for maybe nationwide races or even more truck races, because they're always interesting to watch and they definitely provide a lot of action.
One thing Eldora has in its back pocket that Rockingham never did was Tony Stewart. So you can't imagine that Tony Stewart's going to let this go without a fight. Touching on heat races, I could see them doing them in the Nationwide and the Truck Series, but only on short tracks. Daytona and Talladega would be interesting. I think just the risk of everyone crashing out would be a little bit too high to do it there. And how many laps would you do them for? Because usually they're only a handful, and a handful at a super speedway might not get you too far. But they could try it with the short tracks, but at the same time you probably have to add more short tracks to the schedule, which are sorely lacking on any of the three NASCAR schedules right now.
Once the dirt and dust settle from the even at Eldora, NASCAR shifts focus to Indianapolis and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Crown Royal 400, which will take place on Sunday. And the Brickyard's always one of the biggest events of the year because it's the Brickyard and has so many famous races. IndyCar made it such one of the most famous tracks in the world. And one thing that we've noticed over the years is the track as a whole losing its prestige among the fans, drivers, or both, because I think my interest in this race has really declined. It hasn't always been the most exciting, which makes it hard to watch sometimes when they're running green flag for 140 or have 160 laps. Last year they only had 3 cautions, and it was basically a race between Newman and Johnson, and ended up being sort of interesting. But the race as a whole, it's just not as interesting as it once was, and I would say it's on the decline a little among drivers. I don't think you can. They'll probably always be like, yeah, it's Indy. We're really excited about it, since putting your name on the list of winners for one there, it's definitely got to be an honor for them. But among fans, I don't know if it's been the most exciting race over the years, and it's probably losing just a little bit of interest every time the event shows up on the schedule.
Agree with you 100%. Fans probably losing the prestige, especially in my opinion when they've kind of watered down the weekend by having the Nationwide Series run there. But with the drivers, a win at Indy is a win at Indy. No matter how boring the race might be for them, it'll come down to them, like you said, putting their names along the other greats that have won there. But yeah, long green flag runs, fuel mileage, it's a boring race. I see its purpose, for the prestige, but I don't know. It's tough for me to really get into this race. I got lucky last year watching my boy Ryan Newman pick up the win, but it was kind of boring most of the time. But if you are like Ryan Newman last year, or even Paul Menard a couple years back, if you're able to get into victory lane and say that you not only won a Sprint Cup Series race, but you won at Indianapolis, that's a good thing to cross off your list. And could we see another driver who maybe is coming from left field, has won but hasn't won in a while, pull off the surprising victory this year? I don't know. Anything's possible when you get those long runs and kind of do the fuel strategy, but I'm kind of seeing the same old characters are going to be up front.
Speaking of Menard's win in 2011, that was a fuel mileage race. It came down at the end. Menard staying out, risking it on the fuel while a faster Jeff Gordon really hunted him down but was unable to catch up. If the race does turn into fuel mileage, it definitely opens the door for drivers to get that one win and get into the chase. If the race plays out like the last 2 years, the fuel mileage may not be as big of a deal, but I would definitely enjoy it. Probably think the race a little more interesting if fuel mileage eventually does come into play. And we know, you just cut that out. I was going to say something about ESPN, but I kind of transitioned it that well.
Okay. Where do you want me to cut out? Just that ending?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. One thing, Jason, we do have to look forward to this weekend is the return of ESPN for the last leg of their covering NASCAR, actually. Once this is over with, they are gone and NBC takes over. But with ESPN taking back over, is this a good, bad, or indifferent opportunity for them to capture the fans on the television side of things?
I always usually enjoy ESPN's coverage, and I just think they do a really good job with all their reporters and their analysts, the broadcasters, they always do one of the better jobs of the broadcast teams that NASCAR has, and I enjoy watching them each and every year to close the season out. I want to say it's a good thing ESPN takes over, but the one thing that could make it a little bit, the one thing that could make it bad is if they take the opportunity to say, well, we're not going to be back next year, let's just not really put everything towards the coverage, let's just do, I don't know, just like not promote it as much on the networks, or maybe cut out, instead of doing like end of the race if it comes down to trying to post-race coverage, or going to like a sports center, if they just cut out and not show the post-race coverage. It'll be interesting to see if anything like that happens. I don't think it will. I don't really think they would do that, but it'll be something to watch.
Compared to what TNT gave us for the past 6 races, anything ESPN does is going to be above and beyond. And I agree with you. I think they'll be professional about it. I don't foresee them shortchanging much like TNT seem to do, because they have a pretty professional staff there. Comparing Fox and ESPN, I'm not sure who's got the advantage. I think I just want to rag on Fox a little bit more than ESPN, so I might put ESPN ahead of them. But I don't know, it'll be good to kind of get everything together. I just wish there was more consistency each weekend with who covers what, because if you look at the weekend schedule for Indianapolis, it's pretty much Fox Sports 1 until the races, and I think one of the qualifying's on ESPN. So it's kind of weird how you're never actually getting away from Fox at all this year, as they pick up the practices and some of the qualifying.
Yeah, that'll be completely different next year, I believe, with NBC. NBC's going to be more of a major partner like Fox is and show all the practices and the qualifying. And before we even get to NBC next year, we have to make our picks going for this weekend at Indy. And I'm going with Kyle Busch. He has done really well in the past at the track. He won the Nationwide Series race last year. He finished second in 2012, and he's been really close over the last few races. He did wreck and flip over in Daytona, but he finished second in New Hampshire. I know he's trying to get back to victory lane, and I think his time has come for him to win one of the bigger races, and I think it happens someday in Indianapolis.
I was originally leaning Jimmy Johnson for the bounce back factor, but I'm going to go with his teammate for the second week in a row. Hopefully he doesn't make me disappointed for the second week in a row, but Jeff Gordon, 4-time winner, inaugural winner at Indianapolis, 11 top 5s, 16 top 10s, and 20 starts, 8.75 average finish, 488 laps led. That's a stat line for Gordon. I think he's just chipping away. He's still got the points lead. Another race win would do a lot for his confidence, but I think that team's motoring pretty good at this point.
He'll definitely be a factor to watch. I know I was considering picking him because he's done so well here and he's been good, and it just seems like it's his time to win another race. But we will definitely enjoy the races this weekend, starting with Eldora Speedway, and that'll be fun. And heading to Indy, and it'll definitely be a fun weekend overall with the cars taken to this historic venue.
It's going to be fun going from dirt on Wednesday night to bricks on Saturday and Sunday. So enjoy the racing and catch us next week.
Thanks for listening to the Fan3Cast. For more NASCAR coverage, check out StartingParkBlog.com and Turn4RacingNews.com. Follow along on Twitter at Fan3Cast, at StartingParkBlog, and at NASCAR Jason.